Hey, everybody. This next little episode, I wanted to talk about when working in that forward deployed capacity with clients has a little bit of crossover with sales. And I'll give you the initial story because I think sales is also an important skill for any forward deployed engineer or consultant, I really think anybody should develop it. But especially so if you're working in a capacity with other clients, because you often have to sell your ideas through. And even though they've been sold by a sales team before you've gotten there, a lot of times you have to continue to resell the thing that they originally bought, especially when things can go a little awry. One of the things that was tricky for me when I worked at Enterprise Rent a Car and had to sell these insurance packages for these rental cars wasn't just that I wasn't the type of person that was likely to buy the insurance myself. A lot of times I would look at the cost of it. I'd see this $15, there was about $15 a day, and I'd see it times, a 7-day or even a 2-week trip that someone was taking. And I'd think, oh my God, who would pay that much money? It seemed like a lot of money to me at the time. So I couldn't get my head out of this idea of, I would never pay this, so why would they pay this? And when we do sales, one of the first things that you're going to learn that's going to increase your performance at anything that you're selling, whether that's an idea or it's a product, is typically to get out of what you would do and think more about what the customer would do. For example, I thought this was a lot of money because I'm making basically minimum wage and living paycheck to paycheck. And I also have to pay for my car insurance. So to pay for this thing that I'm already covered by, just to avoid my deductible and to have the convenience of, if anything happens, the peace of mind, right? I just wasn't the kind of person that would pay for peace of mind. Didn't have peace of mind most days of my life at that time, right? The thing is, these were people who were going and taking a family of 5 skiing in Vail for a week. Money was not the problem for these people. What they wanted, and what I should have been selling, and what I eventually learned to sell, was that when little Timmy turns with his skis and scrapes the top of the bumper, you don't want to have to return. And then we have to file a claim with your insurance company, but you're trying to catch the flight back home. And then you need to spend up. Then we got to shell out the $500 deductible. It's not that the deductible was expensive. I was focused on this. Oh, avoid that expense. I was so focused on the financial. I didn't think that to this person, the value was likely going to be, I just don't want to miss my flight. I don't want to have to think about this. I want to just say, hey, I have the damage waiver. Just take the damn car. You guys get it fixed. I'm out of here. And I had trouble selling that because I had trouble putting myself into that headspace when you're learning about the client. Now, this episode is not really at all about the sale piece, but really more about how we develop and measure our solutions, because it has a parallel. And I'll give you another example. As a software engineer, you've probably worked with a lot of SaaS companies and a lot of software companies, and they have a very high focus on growth at all costs, right? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't even really matter how much something costs. You see this right now in AI with the whole token maxing craze that's going on, but this wasn't just with this. This also was with the push for cloud computing. A lot of times, startup companies are measuring a thing called burn rate, which is just how quick they're burning money and how long they have until they have to raise the next round. And the idea is just to grow, grow, grow. Well, the new age forward deployed engineer who's being tasked with usually bringing AI or some type of software tooling to Main Street, right? They're going after, I don't want to say the small business, but this mid-market business, these $100 million, these hundreds of millions in revenue, typically, maybe tens of millions. So they're not going to be these in that $1 billion range, in that hyper growth range, but they are very much in the SMB market. This is something I'm seeing all over the internet. We all want to sell. We all want to sell to the local HVAC guy, the irrigation guy. I saw a post the other day. They said you're just going to walk in and you're going to tell them you're going to put in an overnight call system, an AI automated overnight call system that takes in all their overnight calls when they're not in the office and books them for the next day. And you are going to be their AI guy, right? So this is what you're going to do. You're going to be their forward deployed engineer. And you're going to charge $2,000 to $3,000 a month to do this, and everything's going to be gravy, and you're going to do that over and over again. And the reason I say that it's not really a small business thing, I think everybody knows there are businesses out there that struggle, that are just too small to pay someone $2,000 to $3,000 a month to be the AI guy. You're sort of in this mid-market place. The local contractor, you know who they are. They have the nice truck. They build all the homes locally. The local landscaper who's got the nice, there's sort of a level of design to those businesses. You know what level they're at. You see them everywhere. Everybody uses them. The local HVAC company, like for us, I think there's a whole bunch of them. They're a bit more expensive, right? They have a very premium service offering, and AI would really help them because they're managing a lot. So it would seem. Now, the thing that always strikes me about these posts goes back to what matters to them, because I've been in this situation with SaaS products I've built or software I've built where they go, yes, but I don't want too much business. I don't want too many customers. Or what happens if we get overwhelmed, right, from this system you're building? And of course, the SaaS mindset in me goes, sounds like a good problem to have, right? A bunch of you who are watching are going, yeah, what's the problem? There's no such thing as too much growth, right? We're software people. That's all we think about is growth, growth, growth. Well, I'm going to take you back again to something they drilled into us at Enterprise, and that I think that people need to understand when it comes to service businesses, because I understand this now as a software agency that actually doesn't want exponential growth. And the reason that is because my moat is my service. Okay? For a lot of you, the software that you build is the moat. The thing you do, there's something special about the software when you work in a SaaS company that creates a moat that is hard for other people to overcome. But for the vast majority of service businesses like your local HVAC company or your local software agency, the moat is the service, because anybody can offer the thing that you do. What they can't replicate is the service, the likability, the care that you put into the products that you put out there, into the service that you provide your customers. And I'll give you this Enterprise example because they drilled this into our head when I was there. And at the end of every rental, when people came back, regardless of what happened, even after they had been into an accident, you had to ask, would you say that service here was a 5 out of 5? Would you give us a 5 out of 5? And you wanted them to say absolutely 5 out of 5. And the reason why is because they had it down. There's a statistic out there, and it was something like, for every customer that had a perfect experience, the 5 out of 5 experience, they will return to you 70% of the time. For every customer that had a 4 out of 5 experience, just one notch below, still a good experience, 4 out of 5 on Google, 4 out of 5 stars on Google reviews, that's great, right? They will return 30% of the time. Huge drop off, right? From 70 to 30. And so it was important that anybody who said less than a 5 out of 5, even if it was a 4 out of 5, your follow-up question was, how can I get you to a 5 out of 5? I one time had a customer. They took a car, brand new Dodge Charger, loved the car. Said, was it a 5 out of 5? He said, no, it was a 4 out of 5. I said, why? He goes, the CD player didn't work. it seemed silly to me, right? The CDO, well, 4 out of 5 is still pretty good, but no, the enterprise way was, no, how do I get you to a 5 out of 5? And he said, how do I make that right for you? And he said, give me the rental for free. And I said, that sounds crazy. I didn't say this, but I gave him the rental for free. Said, that's fine. That gets you to a 5 out of 5. Fine. Because he rented for a few days, there's a few $100. It's free. That person ended up writing Enterprise about the experience. Let them know, hey, this is exactly what happened. Threw me under the bus. You're all looking, threw me under the bus. Free for a CD player. They're going to fire you for that. And they told me, you did exactly as you are trained. Because here's the thing about small to mid-sized businesses. This is HVAC. This is me as a software company. I don't make money on the first deal. I make money when you come back. We are after customers for life. The moat. This guy will now rent his next car with Enterprise because of that. And the next one, and the next one. And it actually wasn't his first, it was his second good experience. His first experience with Enterprise before that, he actually did get into an accident. And he actually didn't buy the damage waiver. But Enterprise helped him get the deductible money back with his credit card on the back end of that. And so this was his second experience where things didn't go right, but he just loved that we made it right. And man, what a lesson that was, because it's such a departure from how we think about software, especially SaaS software. In fact, I would venture to say that SaaS companies could give a crap about their customers. How many do you guys know about the customers that leave? You know that survey at the end that they give where they're just sort of like, why are you leaving? And you're like, I don't need it. I didn't like it. You type something in the box. Where does that go? Does anybody read that? I, as an engineer, even as a forward deployed engineer, never saw any responses from any of that. Never heard anything. The only time that anybody ever went up into a tizzy when someone was leaving was if they were one of the enterprise customers. The enterprise, customers paying big money, one of the few. Otherwise, people come, people go. Who cares? They like the product. They don't like the product. Oh, we have a whole big drop off of signups. Let's go figure out the UX, but we're not going to talk to the customers. We're not going to try and win them back. Forget it. We'll move on. There's another. It reminds me of the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones when Catelyn Stark is about to kill Walter Frey's wife and says, stop this now. And Walter Frey goes, I'll get another. That's kind of the SaaS feeling towards its customers in a lot of ways. You're very removed from them. I'll get another. Oh, what if that automated phone system you put in at the HVAC company gets a bunch of people pissed off, but you never know about it? You'll get another. This goes back to that empathy, putting yourself in the mid-sized business owner's shoes now, the SMB business, the people whose moat is their service. You cannot think how you thought when you worked as an engineer at a SaaS company, because it's completely, completely different. These service businesses rely on reputation. They rely on reviews. They rely on people always, always, always coming back to them. And many times the local HVAC company for me charges 5 times what someone would charge if I picked, if I just went on the street, kind of pulled one of those names off the cork board at the train station, knows plumbing, guy that just knows plumbing. They're charging a lot more. So the service, what am I paying for? I'm paying for the service. I'm paying for the accountability. I'm paying for the fact that you're not going to leave me in the lurch, that you're going to be here tomorrow, that I actually want to be a customer for life of that customer. When I think about my software business, I don't have hockey stick growth. What I have are customers that stay with me for years, that when they need software built, they come to me first. When a new technology like AI comes out, they come to me first. So when we think about building solutions for these businesses, we have to hold the customer sacred. We can't just sit there and go, oh, what if that's one of the things you are going to hear over and over again. Well, what if this is too successful? That's what the software engine hears. What if this is too successful? Too many customers, too much volume. Let's take that overnight support example. If somebody is calling an HVAC company or a plumber or an electrician at midnight, they are not looking to book an appointment for the next day. Use your brain. Yes, maybe it's 7 p.m. Oh, they just called after closing hours. We'll have you book an appointment. Somebody's calling at midnight. That's an emergency. And if they're on the phone with some kind of a bot, or you're not set up to handle those type of calls, sometimes it's better to not pick those up. Hey, we actually don't handle emergencies. Or a nice solution, if you really want to get into the AI game, is, hey, this is my competitor who does. I don't do overnight. If you're in an emergency situation, you need this person. But if you can wait, let's book you for tomorrow morning. That's a much different system, but it shows an intuition. It shows a care. It shows holding that customer sacred. It's trying to figure out how to grow this person's business, make their life easier without creating more headaches. I heard this from a solution that I built for a coffee shop. They wanted online ordering. I said, I'm selling it. Online ordering, just like Starbucks. They go, we tried something like that, but people complained that the drinks were cold. And they said, how does Starbucks handle that? Well, they just throw it out and make a new one. Oh, you could do that. And go, well, I don't have the margins that Starbucks has. I can't just throw it. How often is that going to happen? I don't know. So now the risk is higher for them, right? We have to think about this when we're building this solution. Oh, well, maybe we want to make it so that we prompt the person, maybe, but they were still open to it, right? The app's a good idea, but maybe we need to let the person know, hey, if you're ordering a hot drink, you should try to order it when you're close, when you're not when you're 10, 15 minutes away. Something, right? We got to get creative in our thinking. The same thing for this HVAC company. Hey, this is true. What if we set you up? Do you want to do overnight? Maybe the owner says, yes, I actually have always wanted to figure out overnight, but then I have to pay a plumber and then I'd have to pay a receptionist. Well, I figured out the receptionist piece. Now you don't need to sit somebody in the office overnight. We have something that's always going to pick up, but how do we ping the plumbers? How do we get them going? How do we get someone who's available overnight and ready to respond to these calls that are inevitably going to come in? You want to open emergency service. You see, I'm not building software anymore. The software is the easy part. Now I have to work with the business owner on how to support how that software changes their business. So I'm tying it back to this idea that sales is about the empathy, trying to get out of the thing that you think what you would do, and into the shoes of that person. And when we start to enter inevitably the small to mid-sized business market with some of these tools, they're getting more and more interested in software. This is what you're thinking of when you're going to deploy AI. Even when you go to enterprises, though, they are all going to have a unique perspective, something uniquely different about their business that they care about, that is not just going to be hockey stick growth. And especially for service businesses, I can't stress this enough, the service is the moat. So you have to hold that sacred. So in every solution that we build, we need to be thinking, am I doing right by this person's customer? Am I modifying the business in a way that the owner or the stakeholders want? How is that going to be received? And by showing that care, by being willing to work the solution at that level, I'm not saying that you're not going to run into problems, that you're not going to run into scale problems, but you have to have a better answer than, doesn't sound like a problem to me. You don't like growth? Because not all growth is good growth. You want to do that in the right way, in the way that preserves that business's unique moat in the marketplace.